Hi, this is Dr. Martin, and in this video, I will talk about the neuromuscular junction anatomy and physiology. We can define the neuromuscular junction as a type of synapse. A synapse where an axon of motor neuron and a skeletal muscle fiber meets. This meeting is very important because skeletal muscle fibers are voluntary and they can contract only when stimulated by a motor neuron. If that motor neuron stimulates the skeletal muscle dies, no matter how good, strong the muscle fiber is, and it cannot function anymore, it goes to atrophy, a shrink by size, and function will be lost. Neuromuscular junction or motor end plate has some parts. As an anatomy student, you should be able to draw and label those parts. It's very easy. The name on it, neuro and muscular. Neuro, that means you need to draw a motor neuron ending, the axon ending, and a skeletal muscle fiber. In reality, they are not touching each other. Between neuron ending and the skeletal muscle, we have a gap. This gap we will call synaptic cleft. The membrane of the motor neuron ending we will call presynaptic membrane because it's before the synaptic cleft, and plasma membrane or sarcolemma of the skeletal muscle fiber we will call postsynaptic membrane because it's after the synaptic cleft. If there is a space between them, if they are not touching with each other, how they communicate? They communicate through a chemical messenger substance that produced by neuron we will call neurotransmitters. We have different type of neurotransmitter in our body. When neurons communicate with each other, neuron communicate with muscle or neuron communicate with glands. But in this particular special type of synapse we call neuromuscular junction, we have only one type of excitatory neurotransmitter we will call acetylcholine that we will talk in the next slide. They are produced and stored, and they found inside the synaptic vesicles. They store in the synaptic vesicles. The acetylcholine or neurotransmitter has to have a receptor because they are receptor specific. So receptors are found on the postsynaptic membrane. So you need to draw axon ending, motor neuron ending, and skeletal muscle, synaptic cleft, synaptic vesicle inside store the neurotransmitters, and the receptors on the postsynaptic membrane. This picture shows how the synaptic vesicles comes and becomes the part of the presynaptic membrane, and through exocytosis release the neurotransmitters into the synaptic cleft. After the acetylcholine in the synaptic cleft, how it finds the neurotransmitter receptors. Acetylcholine is an organic chemical messenger molecule. It's a chemical that motor neurons of the nervous system release in order to activate the muscles. Parts in the body that use or are affected by acetylcholine are referred as cholinergic. Many important drugs exert their effect by altering the cholinergic transmission. Numerous venoms, toxins produced by plants, animals, bacteria, as well as the chemical agent sarin has an effect by inactivating or hyperactivating the muscles through their influences on the neuromuscular junction. Drugs that act on the cholinergic receptors, such as atropine, can be poisonous if it's used in the large amounts, but in small amounts they are commonly used to treat some heart conditions and eye problems. Scopolamine again acts on the cholinergic receptors in the brain that can cause delirium and amnesia. Addictive qualities of the nicotine are derived from its effect on, again, acetylcholine receptors in the brain. The enzyme acetylcholine esterase converts the acetylcholine into the inactive metabolites choline and acetate. This enzyme is abundantly found in the synaptic cleft, and its role in rapidly clearing the free acetylcholine from the synapse is essential for proper muscle function. So without that, muscle will not be relaxed. Certain neurotoxins work by inhibiting acetylcholinesterase and thus lead to excess acetylcholine at the neuromuscular junction, cause paralysis of the muscles, and needed for breathing and stopping the beating of the heart. What are the events happening at the neuromuscular junction? And first, a neuron, motor neuron, creates an action potential. An action potential propagates to the end of the axon. Action potential arises at the end of the axon, and it changes the electrical charge to the positive comparing to the outside. Intracellular electrical charge change to the positivity allows the voltage gated calcium ion channels to open, and calcium starts getting into the cell, so calcium ion influx even increase the positivity even further, that cause the synaptic vesicles to release their neurotransmitters via exocytosis to the synaptic cleft. Since acetylcholine is the only excitatory neurotransmitter at the end of the neuromuscular junction, it releases into synaptic cleft, and it binds on the acetylcholine receptors on the postsynaptic membrane of the skeletal muscle, and acetylcholine changes the permeability of the sodium and potassium ion at the postsynaptic membrane, and sodium enters into skeletal muscle fiber. Increased intracellular positivity in the muscle generates a muscle impulse action potential, and increased positive charge in the muscle fiber causes the release of calcium ions from the sarcoplasmic reticulum, which leads to the muscle contraction. When muscle contract, you need to relax as well. So acetylcholine esterase found in the synaptic cleft goes to degrade the acetylcholine neurotransmitter, and acetylcholine degraded to metabolite acetate and choline, and they are taken by, again with the axon ending, by reuptake and reuse it to create acetylcholine, new acetylcholine as well, and muscle relaxed. I listed all those stages in next slide. You can see here. If you want, you can stop and read again, but it's better to follow through the picture. That's why I put it. Now I want to talk one more thing, the last thing, clinical application. As a clinical application, I would like to mention the myasthenia gravis disease. It's an autoimmune neuromuscular disease, and they produce the antibodies that attack their own acetylcholine receptors on skeletal muscle fibers, and their symptoms are weakness and rapid fatigue of muscles under voluntary control. They may have double vision, droopy eyelids, difficulties with speech and chewing. The symptoms severity depends on how much acetylcholine receptors are destroyed. There is no cure for myasthenia gravis, but treatment can help to relieve signs and symptoms. I hope you enjoyed. Have a good day.